Hey everybody, welcome back to Brown Table. And as you can see, this is the Halloween episode. I'm dressed up as Catwoman. Now if you don't know what I'm talking about, you obviously haven't been blessed yet with the film Catwoman. I have no idea why Catwoman has such a low score on Rotten Tomatoes, because honestly, she should be a household name. And Chris Nolan even butchered the character in The Dark Knight Rises. She's supposed to be Patience Phillips. They changed her name to Selena Kyle. Can you believe that shit? It's disgusting. So here, I'm going to talk to you about the film directed by Pitoff, just Pitoff, Catwoman. Before we start, as you can see, my Catwoman outfit has been retired because the neighbors called the cops on me. Now, right from the start, this movie is absolutely beautiful because it uses these antiquated Egyptian symbols and aesthetic. It's cultural appropriation done right. And the logo has an Egyptian symbol on it, I think. We also see how cats migrated to different continents because these pussies are badass as fuck. Honestly, this movie is genuinely talking about history, and it's talking about these important things that history books don't teach you. I respect this movie because it has the gall to show us what the government won't show us. You know, in Transformers Dark of the Moon, they showed us, the astronauts did go to space. But when they got to the moon, they found an alien spaceship. I thank that movie for telling us the truth. And in this movie, Catwoman, we're shown that, in ancient Egypt, cat fetishes, BDSM, and furries existed. Like I stated before, this movie is directed by Pitoff, who also joins the ranks of people with just one name, like Beyonce and Kesha. And based on those two artists, I think you can tell how high quality this movie is going to be. The movie then cuts away from history, and it starts telling us who Patience Phillips is, in the perspective of the narrator, who is Patience Phillips.
It all started on the day that I died.
That isn't cliche at all. We want to be told exactly what we're seeing. I mean, Ratatouille did the same thing.
This is me.
It has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. You know how much Catwoman has? 9%. The critics have an agenda against DC Comics. I swear to you right now. We then crossfade to CGI that rivals Steppenwolf's. And we all know that Steppenwolf's CGI is pretty much realism at this point. There's no uncanny valley. That's a real person. And this CGI almost beats it. Almost. And now we're explaining the masterful plot. And that is that Catwoman works at a company which does facial products. And they're launching a new facial product called Butylene. And the CGI lady who used to be the face of Butylene is being replaced. And she does not like that. At all. That's the plot. And this scene really makes me appreciate how far CGI has come. That looks so much better than Thanos, obviously, one of the worst visual effects of 2018. And bam, it's just so beautiful. It looks like she just popped right out of Beowulf. Pitoff also masterfully handles that camera by placing the camera right fucking smack in front of the characters' faces, and I fucking love it. Also, to make things less confusing and make it easier for the audience to follow what's happening on screen, Pitoff changes camera angles every single time an actor says a few syllables.
George, let her fix it.
Whatever. By tomorrow night. Midnight.
So the douchebag boss goes to Patience Phillips and tells her, listen, you need to redo your art because, your art is a piece of shit and her art is shit. So she goes and she's like, oh man, I feel like shit. So eventually, life got too hard for Patience Phillips and she tries to kill herself. Who the fuck is this guy? Don't worry about it, it's all part of the plan. So Sexy Cop over here is actually the Flash, and he manages to get to Patience Phillips' apartment in 5 seconds. Her apartment's on the 3rd floor. So yeah, this isn't just Catwoman, this is a Flash movie too. Take that, Avengers. Speaking of sex, Phillips and Sexy Cop don't fuck right after. Speaking of dumb, Phillips drops her wallet like an idiot. You know what I love about this movie is that it's so influential. You see this scene where CGI lady is intimidated by a sign? She's scared of a 2D image. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, one of the greatest films in modern cinema, copied this scene down to the letter with Electro. Don't tell me this movie isn't influential, because it is. Pitoff, you're a goddamn genius. So Patience Phillips goes with a redesigned ad to the facility where they designed all this facial cream. Why she goes there, and she figures out the horrifying truth about Butylene. And the truth is that it gives people acne. And she's discovered. So the guards go after her, she goes into the pipes like an idiot, and they flush her out, she dies, and then the movie ends. Cool. See ya. Actually, I forgot. The kinky shit starts now. So the CGI cat that we met before performs some mouth action on Phillips, and right after that, she makes her way home and she leaps to her window like Venom, and she looks at her face and she's all ugly, and then she smashes the window and she should be bleeding, but the next morning she's completely clean, so I guess one of her superpowers is becoming clean. Anyways, P-Top does something masterful with this film. Instead of making Patience Phillips all like Selena Kyle, you know, just liking cat stuff and being a furry, he makes Patience Phillips into a literal cat. So she likes catnip, she hisses at dogs, she's a total punk, and she likes shiny stuff. Also, her friend collapses. So Sexy Cop is at school, and Patience Phillips finds him. Obviously, I mean, if you read a comic, you would know that Catwoman has the ability to track people across the globe, you fucking idiot. Phillips gets Sexy Cop a cup of coffee, and it even says, "sorry" on the coffee cup. In any world, in any language, we all know it's a universal truth that coffee means sex.
Should we get that coffee?
You invited me up. Coffee's not coffee. Coffee is sex.
Yeah, maybe we'll grab a coffee sometime or something.
Maybe coffee was coffee.
Coffee's coffee in the morning. It's not coffee at 12 o'clock at night.
But the two can't have sex in front of the children because the children think coffee means let's play basketball. So they start chanting for Sexy Cop and a complete stranger to play basketball. And the kids are astonished because they've never seen a ball before. So Sexy Cop and Patience Phillips decide to pretty much start humping each other in public in front of the children, and the children don't care. And Patience Phillips is pretty much grinding on Sexy Cop to the beat of the music that isn't there. The scene ends with Phillips only pouncing on Sexy Cop, and that's pretty much it. It's kind of frustrating, but hey, P-Toff leaves the good stuff to the imagination. In this next scene, we discover two things. We discover that CGI lady has ego vision, and that she hates glass. Phillips has gone so crazy by this point that she decides to crash a party and dominate someone in front of everybody. And finally, at the 41-minute mark, the movie just decides, fuck it.
Time to accessorize.
So Halle Berry decides to go to a store and steal some jewelry, and just by coincidence, she finds all these other thieves that are also there at the store to steal some jewelry. And so Halle Berry obviously goes, guess what? Is it A, steal with them, B, lick them, or C, bang them all? Wrong, the answer is D, we ride them like surfboards. So after beating up all the guys because they're stealing and stealing is bad, Halle Berry decides to steal everything. Eventually she regains her senses and gives all the stuff back to the cops, but she decides to keep two things, like a total good person. And just like the coffee, the bag of jewelry says sorry too. Catwoman's greatest ability also in this movie is her ability to turn into a 3D character. Now let me reiterate again why I think this film is a piece of art. Catwoman represents the hoe in all of us, you know? I mean, sometimes we just want to order white cream and gulp it down in skimpy clothing while a hot dude watches us. It's what we all want, deep in our hearts. So Catwoman decides to pounce on the dude that fired her, right? And what comes next is one of the greatest fights I've ever seen in my entire life. The cinematography, the filming is just brilliant. So Catwoman discovers at this point that the company that she works for pretty much ordered and covered up her death. I know what you're thinking. Can this movie get any better? Yes, it can. Sexy Cop is trying to tie Patience Phillips and Catwoman together by analyzing the sorry in the coffee cup and the bag. The reason how they discovered that they're not the same person is because one Y is different from the other. Because one Y is an angry Y, and the other Y is a happy Y.
We look at the loop of the Y, very self-confident, almost angry.
So they're different people.
Very.
Also, Catwoman and Sexy Cop go on a date, and it's definitely not boring. It is also one of the best uses of CGI I've ever seen in my entire life. It does not look like green screen at all. So Catwoman invades CGI Lady's home, and after fighting her, they become best friends. CGI Lady pretty much says that her husband is the bad guy, and of course, since he's the bad guy, Catwoman has to ride him. So Catwoman rides the bad guy, and eventually she scratches him because she's into BDSM, and then she finds Sexy Cop and she licks him because she's into dominating, and then she escapes. Meanwhile, CGI Lady is pretty much Luke Cage. So yeah, she's pretty much slap resistant. Too bad she doesn't dab. This movie's pacing is brilliant. Because remember when I was talking to you about, Catwoman and Sexy Cop's date? Yeah, so everything I've talked about since then has all happened in the span of 10 minutes. The movie rushes through scene after scene, and you barely understand what's happening because images are being shot at you right and left and just right in front of you, and you can't really decipher what's going on. And that's amazing because honestly, that's what Catwoman is like. She's fierce, she's fast. Thank you, Pitoff. Masterful camera work. When I grow up, I want to be Catwoman. Catwoman and Sexy Cop go on another date, and this time, the entire conversation is pretty much all extreme close-ups. And I am not joking when I say that. Pretty much the entire conversation is just close-up, close-up, close-up. And I really want to thank Pitoff for this because honestly, since films began, I've always been thinking, why do backgrounds exist? Nobody cares about the setting. All we care about is the pores on someone's face, and Pitoff gives us that perfectly. Also, remember that this movie was made in 2004, but it was so ahead of its time that Nokia phones already have FaceTime. So anyways, Catwoman is framed by CGI lady for killing George, her husband, and Catwoman is caught by Sexy Cop and she's taken to jail. So Halle Berry pleads to Sexy Cop, please, I'm telling you, I'm not Catwoman. And then in the next scene, she hisses at a cop.
You be a nice kitty now.
Now that is a strong female character. Who's Captain Marvel, huh? Black Widow? Captain America? So Catwoman escapes prison. How? Because the bars are too far apart. So CGI lady decides to launch the product Butylene, right? And she's confronted by Sexy Cop. And Sexy Cop is telling her, listen, I think Catwoman is innocent. And I think you killed George.
Now why would you believe it was me?
Because I finally trusted a friend.
So here's where the movie subverts your expectations, right? Usually you expect antagonists to be smart, right? CGI lady is dumb as hell. One might expect the villain to lie their way out or to just, deny and say, no, I'm not guilty. You have no proof. There were freaking claw marks on my husband, right? You're wrong, she just shoots him. Also, the final action sequence in the movie is one of the greatest action sequences ever put to film. And look, I'm watching it right now and honestly, I'm in love with it. It's filmed in a way to make you feel a little sick and a little dizzy because of how frenetic the violence is. And it's making me sick, but it does the job. Good job, Pitoff. Anyway, CGI lady beats Catwoman and says to Catwoman that it's over. And then Catwoman retorts with, it's overtime.
Overtime.
Catwoman then proceeds to give CGI lady the absolute worst acne scars imaginable. And then CGI lady plummets to her death. She is no longer CGI too. She is now a real person. The CGI villain has been vanquished. And we zoom out, pan away from her corpse, and heroic music plays. Eventually, at the end of the movie, Catwoman decides to break up with Sexy Cop. She walks away from the camera, going towards the moon. Probably in the sequel, she's gonna go to space, I don't know. But she whips at the camera, probably preparing herself to whip some other boy toy in the sequel that was never made. It was never made. Warner Brothers. Why? Why not make a sequel to this masterpiece? I don't understand why these big companies won't fund art house films. I love Pitoff's cinematography. I love it. I'm gonna name my son Pitoff. Warner Brothers, I'm telling you, we don't need Wonder Woman 1784. We don't need Aquafish. The true fans, the true Catwoman fans, we're counting on you. We need more Halle Berry. We need more Pitoff. Snyder cut my ass. Catwoman 2. Yes.